Hello, this is NewFilmmakers Los Angeles in partnership with Movie Maker magazine. My name is Talis Correa and we're here at South Park Center, and today we're going to talk about an incredible film called Policing Our Own. Let's watch the clip.
In society, we have credit. Always have credit cards. We have credit score.
Hey! I'm here for a minute looking at her for you.
I just came
straight.
Yeah, I just got here. In the street world, my credit card is outstanding. I've been through the fire. I've been through what you've been through. Some of these guys, they know the folk tales of stuff you've done in the past. And then they look at that like, yo, he's a solid dude. They look at my team, they look at my partners. These are solid individuals. We heard the stories about them.
And we're here now with Dante he has an Italian name, help me pronounce.
Dante de Blasio.
Dante de Blasio, beautiful.
Thank you.
Dante, thanks so much for coming here and talking
Thank
to
you.
us. Tell us a little bit about the film. For those who don't know, tell us a little bit of the synopsis and what the film's about.
Happily. The film is about something called the Brownsville Safety Alliance, which is this 5-day initiative where these people called violence interrupters are allowed to take 911 calls and 311 calls. And violence interrupters are street outreach workers who work in some of the most dangerous neighborhoods in New York City to de-escalate fights, to interrupt conflicts, and to offer services, job services, mental health services to at-risk young people. A lot of people had said, these are people that should be involved in criminal justice instead of just calling the police for everything.
Yeah, no, that's very interesting. And you show a part of Brooklyn and a part of New York that is really like not seen in a lot of places. But tell us a little bit about your journey. Like how do you start filmmaking up to the decision to make this film, and what inspired you to get you to this film?
Yeah, I mean, documentary filmmaking was not something I ever thought I'd be doing. I came into this as a writer, and I made this film about Brownsville because I met the key individuals in the film, specifically Terrell Anderson, who was the precinct commander there, and Dushan Biga, who's the lead violence interrupter there. And it was such a compelling story, and I said, we have to do something with this. Yeah. You know, we have to tell this story and share it with people because it's an absolutely revolutionary experiment that's not being done anywhere else in America, and people should learn about it. Yeah.
No, and you executed really brilliantly. But you've done a script before, right? Is this your first short? Like, tell us a little bit.
So I've written screenplays before,
okay.
But this is my first documentary,
Yeah.
and I'm actually working on a movie script right now about this subject, specifically violence interrupters in Brownsville, which is a neighborhood in Brooklyn. And I'm really excited to spread the story even more widely, because there's a problem with filming this kind of work, which is that, you know, you're often around people having a moment of crisis. So you want to capture the story, but you don't want to inflame a situation. You don't want to put someone in a compromising position. And this happened numerous times during filming where, you know, we couldn't film the full thing because we didn't want to put someone in danger. We didn't want to put someone on the spot when we were trying to like de-escalate a situation. So I wanted to write a movie script about it so that you could show the entire thing.
Yeah, and that's very interesting about this type of film you're doing, especially this subject matter, because it feels, as a filmmaker, you're almost being part of a narrative that is naturally happening there, and it feels like your presence kind of could influence in a way and in the other. Tell us a little bit about that.
It was really challenging filming.
Yeah.
I mean, there was always a judgment call about when to put the camera on someone, when to put it away, when to use footage, when not to use footage. And I think a good balance was struck in the final film, but there were a lot of things that could have been included that ultimately weren't because of privacy concerns, or because, you know, you have like a situation that could end up in a fight, or like something serious that could end up with someone getting arrested. And, you know, you don't want to, that's not a good outcome for a documentary film.
Yeah, and how you went about gaining trust with the subject matters, you know, like to navigate and you know, and flow around freely, and making sure that they you know, they also trust you and what you're doing.
I spent a lot of time in Brownsville. That's really the long and short of it. Before I filmed anything, I would spend like every weekend there hanging out with this group of violence interrupters. The group is called Brownsville In, Violence Out. And I would go to their community events, I'd go to their basketball tournaments, I'd go to their backpack giveaways. I'd go to everything that they were hosting just to get to know them and, to get them used to me being around.
Yeah.
And then only eventually, after many months, did I start using my camera. And by that point, there was a certain familiarity, friendship, and that's how that happened.
Nice, yeah. So you're like a local to the community there. They know your face. And as a filmmaker, what is the difference between narrative and documentary filmmaking? Like, how do you distinctively choose to go on the way and the other? What is the pros and cons of each?
I mean, I think the best thing about documentary filmmaking is the spontaneity. Yeah. It's that you have no idea what's going to happen. And there's this funny thing where I think people are actually often much more interesting than like the wildest fantasies of a screenwriter. People make much more unexpected decisions, sometimes irrational decisions, and it's just documentary filmmaking is so fascinating because of that, because you just don't know how a story's going to shape up. Yeah. It's terrifying filming one because you don't know where it's going to go, but it's so much fun too. And I think I mentioned this already, but I really wanted to write a screenplay based on all this because it's just so difficult to capture so many of the moments.
So you feel like a screenplay out of this type of story would give you more control on how to lead the narrative or what do you want to show?
I think I want to show the fullness of the community more. Mm-hmm. I mean, and this is people at their very worst and people at their very best. Yeah. I mean, it's people who are doing something that is tremendously heroic. So this group of violence interrupters, Brownsville and Violence Out, they've actually had 2 of their street outreach workers shot in the last 2 years.
Yeah.
It's incredibly dangerous work. They don't wear body armor, they don't have guns, nothing like that. But they're putting themselves in the middle of situations that can end up with someone having a gun.
Yeah.
So you can already hear the problem with filming all that, you don't actually want to be there, fly on the wall in every situation. But if you write a screenplay, you can show everything and have more control.
Yeah. One thing that is really interesting that you were able to show in your film that drew my attention was that you were able to bring the community perspective on the police. You were trying to unite like those two people defending themselves versus the role of the police in that community, right? And it's really cool to see like the need and the necessity of they getting to know both part, right? Like what the police man or women do on the day-to-day basis, and also what these people are doing on their own. And tell us a little bit about that perspective, about like what, like their feelings towards the police and the need to get to know them.
Yeah, I mean, as a society, I think we all have the same goal, which is public safety. We don't want people to get shot. We don't want people to get arrested. So the question is, what is the best way to achieve that? And unfortunately, too often in our society, the answer has been flood a dangerous neighborhood with police officers and arrest anyone that does anything out of line. And this film is saying you can have a much more calibrated approach. Mm-hmm. Not every situation requires a police officer to come in and arrest someone. You can have community members come in and de-escalate certain situations, talk to people in moments of crisis. However, at the same time, we need police because there's many situations, I'll throw a few out, armed robbery, kidnapping, child abuse, where you do not want, let's say, an average street outreach worker getting involved. You want someone who is a representative of the state, like an impartial agent of justice to be involved, who also has a weapon in case it's needed. So it's all just a matter of saying, you want a targeted approach. Yeah. You want people who are best equipped to handle particular situations.
Yeah, no, for sure. I actually wrote something about a note. Let me see if I can pull it out. It was about the relatability of the police officers with the community. And And as a filmmaker, like, do you have any approach in towards like the style that you're gonna shoot, like the type of lens? How do you go about in a movie like that?
Yeah, I mean, because the situations were so dynamic, because so much of it is just stuff happening on the street,
Yeah.
I did not want to be overly prescriptive. I did not want to be at like, I'm going to do everything on a 35, you know? It's just, I have a zoom lens, I'm going to get the footage, I'm going to get a picture, you know? I'm going to get the image.
35 is the go-to, huh? Let's just put it at 35 and call it a day.
I was like, it is whatever it needs to be to get something understandable, you know? And I'm very happy with how it came out because we did do some like landscape photography, you know, where some of the transitions are about the neighborhood, but most of it is just making sure that the people, the subjects are the primary focus.
Yeah. I'm sure this film may cause a lot of different reactions from, you know, depending of the audience. I'm curious to know, like, how has been the reaction, you know, on showing this film on the theater, in public?
Yeah, I mean, it's been really good reaction so far. I've been really pleased, and I think it's because after the George Floyd protest in particular, there's an understanding that the old school way of policing, it can't be the only thing that we're doing.
Yeah.
You know, because, I mean, you see it in LA all the time, you see it in New York all the time. You've got a lot of people who are living on the street, who have mental health problems, who you can throw them in jail, and then what? They just come right back onto the street, and it's the same problem over and over again. That's not helping them, it's not helping society, it's not helping the people who are living in these places. And we need to have a solution other than just putting handcuffs on someone.
Yeah. Now, and it's really cool to see like personal levels, like people in a personal level that was affected by that, especially in Brooklyn, right? And how do you captivate like that, you know, that very moment of people sharing their personal moments with you? Like, is that something that you expecting them to say? Because there's some very opinions of people that are very particular, and you're able to capture that in a way that we're not sure if it feels like they don't know you're shooting.
I appreciate you saying that. I mean, it's just about trust at the end of the day.
Yeah.
It's about having spent so much time there.
Yeah.
And honestly, just having them forget about me. It's like when you spend, you know, like months with people, at a certain point, you're just part of the background, you know? It's just like, oh, it's that guy that's here, you know? It's like your friend. It's like, and so even if you have the camera, you're able to have that relationship.
Yeah.
And yeah, if I had just come in and said, I'm making a documentary, ignore me, it would not have worked.
Yeah.
I mean, there had to be that investment of time to build those relationships.
Yeah, no, that's cool. And we all know that there's a lot of filmmakers that watching this and follow our program, and we all know that documentaries, usually there's a lot of the work is done in the editing room. And what was the process for that? Like, how do you balance keeping the story on a narrative that you're satisfied as a filmmaker, but also keeping truth to, you know, what's going on with those people?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I have to say I have an amazing editor who's one of my closest friends, James Neidham. I mean, I could not have.
James.
Yeah, shout out James. I could not have done it without him. He's an amazing editor, an amazing collaborator, and I mean, we worked so closely on this.
Yeah.
And I'm very thankful for his help. And second, I'll say this film, I think, was much easier to organize than perhaps some other ones because it was built around moments. It was built around these particular incidents that were happening. And so it was more a question of what are the things linking those moments. I mean, don't quote me on this, but let's say there's like 5 moments. It's, okay, how do we make everything else make sense? How do we give context? And I think the editing process was a lot more straightforward because of that.
Yeah. Do you have any concerns of like, oh, if I edit in this way, we'll have a different meaning?
Oh, totally. Because it's a sensitive subject. I mean, for a few reasons. Number one, it's about policing, which is always fraught in this country, which is always, you know, going to provoke strong opinions. And also because we're talking about people going through these terrible moments in their lives. People who are having a mental health crisis, people who might get arrested, people who are in the middle of fights. I mean, you want to be as sensitive as possible to them to make sure you're telling a proper story without losing the truth of the matter. And it's just such a difficult balance to strike. So we talked a lot, me and James, about, can we include this extra context? Should we cut this? Are we losing the accuracy if we include this? There's all these questions.
Yeah. And did you suffer any backlash for people that maybe didn't agree with the opinions that?
I've definitely shared this documentary with people who do not agree, who are not.
And how was it? How was the reaction?
I've talked to a lot of people, especially in the policing world, who I think are very skeptical of violence interrupters. And they think that police are basically the first and last solution to problems of public safety. And we respectfully disagree.
Respectfully.
Yeah. No, I mean, these are smart people. These are people that are dealing with these problems every day.
Yeah.
They have an interesting perspective on things. But I think my perspective is that having a one-size-fits-all approach to these problems that are so complicated is not really working.
Yeah, and I think that's the beauty of filmmaking and filmmakers like you that go out on the trenches and show different perspective and show real life, real people. Like, you know, it's not just like an opinion piece, like you're showing like the reality of those folks. So it's definitely, thank you for doing a movie like this. This is really important for a lot of people to see. And what's next for you, Dante, and your filmmaking career?
I mean, I'm excited to show this documentary to people. I'm excited to finish this movie screenplay, and I would like the movie screenplay to be my feature debut, so I'm really excited for that.
Nice.
Yeah, and thank you so much for everything. This is an amazing festival. Thank you for the interview.
Yeah, of course. And I know you play a lot of jiu-jitsu, right?
Yeah,
that's what's next for you.
I play soccer and I do jiu-jitsu.
Play soccer and jiu-jitsu.
I have the full Brazilian lifestyle.
Nice. Do you want to share some, before we let you go, any resources, like people who want to follow your work, watch your film, and keep up with what you're doing?
Yeah, I mean, I'm mostly active on Instagram at Dante Q de Blasio. I keep trying to get interested in Twitter again, but not really. X, exactly. But Instagram is the best place to follow me.
Perfect. Thank you so much. That was a pleasure.
Thank you.
This was Dante de Blasio. And we are signing off. Thank you so much.